Julius Randle seems to be the Knicks' answer for their big man spot, and who could the Knicks be targeting around the trade deadline? All that and much more on the Knicks Digest. What's up, guys? It's your boy Dariel from Knicks Digest. Now, the whole Coach Tibbs saying that Julius Randle is probably going to be playing some five-man this upcoming season. I know that was a few days old, but I really wanted to give my take on this because at first, when I first heard Coach Tibbs say that Julius Randle is going to be playing some minutes at the five and then everybody's going to have to attack it from a committee, at first I was kind of tripping. But then I relaxed, I collected myself, and I don't think it's that much of a bad thing. I'm actually cool with it. Julius Randle being at the five spot, that's going to put the Knicks at such an advantage when the Knicks have to go up against all these other premier teams. The Denver Nuggets, the only way the Knicks would actually see them in a playoff format was if they reached the finals. So we don't really have to worry about the Denver Nuggets or the Los Angeles Lakers with Anthony Davis, even though the Lakers are a mess. So focusing more on the Eastern Conference, if we're looking at bigs, we're looking at Bam Adebayo, Miami Heat. We're looking at Brook Lopez, Milwaukee Bucks. We're looking at Philadelphia 76ers with Joel Embiid. Julius Randle going up against those fives, yeah, there's going to be certain instances where he's going to be at a disadvantage, but the opposite could be said as well. Julius Randle is going to have the advantage on his hand. He's quicker than most of those bigs. He has more of a skill set than most of those bigs. Brook Lopez is not going to be able to stay in front of Julius Randle. Joel Embiid is not going to be able to stay in front of Julius Randle, but Julius Randle is not going to be able to guard Joel Embiid at all. But Brook Lopez, he's a bit older. He's on the backside of his career. But much respect to Brook Lopez because when he came into the league, he was a traditional back-to-the-basket big man. And as the years went on, he was able to evolve his game into pretty much a three-point shooting big man. And Julius Randle, it's going to be kind of easy for Julius Randle to match up with Brook Lopez in those games where Julius Randle is going to be, covering the five spot. But going into the actual quote, so Coach Tibbs on how the Knicks will replace Isaiah Hartenstein's production, we'll probably have to do it by committee. We'll look at some different things because we have versatility. We could see Julius more at the five. I don't want to do that for long stretches. It will take its toll. But to have him do it for 10 to 15 minutes, I think he can do it well. He also would create a lot of offensive advantages. Now, the key word or the key words here is that Julius Randle would be doing, he's not going to be doing it for long stretches. And I think that's the key aspect right now. Because if Julius Randle, if he's going to be looked at as the answer for a big man woes for the long-term solution, then we're in trouble. Because then we start having conversations about Julius Randle consistently going up against the bigger players, the whole physical contact, which could lead to injuries. And the last two seasons, Julius Randle has went out with injuries. This past season, everybody knows the shoulder injury. The season prior to that, he had that really bad ankle injury that we didn't really know how bad it was until the end of the playoffs, where they got eliminated by the Miami Heat in 6 games. And then there was a report coming out that Julius Randle had successful surgery on his ankle. And I remember when I read that report, I was like, oh, his ankle was a lot worse than they let on. So Julius Randle, within the last few years, he's had some injuries, but hopefully this upcoming season, he's put all the injuries behind him, and for the rest of the team as well, no injury bug. Hopefully we don't get bitten by the injury bug this upcoming season. But Julius Randle playing the five as far as a long-term solution, we can't have that at all. We need to have Julius Randle as healthy as possible because I honestly think that Julius Randle is the key for us to have a super successful upcoming season. And what do I mean by super successful? With the amount of talent that we've been able to gather with the signing of Mikal Bridges, with the re-signing of OG Anunoby, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, the Villanova Knicks, the chemistry that they've been able to build, it's essential it's essential for us to at least make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Barring injury, barring head coaching changes, all of that stuff, it's essential for us to reach the Eastern Conference Finals. There's going to be no excuses, again, barring injury, no excuses why this talented group cannot reach the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, one thing that I've been noticing on the internet and a couple of news articles is just how is Julius Randle going to be implemented with this team, because Julius Randle wasn't there for the playoff run that they had last season. And now they're adding Mikal Bridges, who has, we all know, tremendous chemistry with the rest of the Villanova Knicks. So Julius Randle is looked at as the odd man out. Now, in my opinion, I think Julius Randle is mature enough to look at the situation. And there's also been articles put out. I forgot who put it out. Maybe it might have been New York Post or maybe a Bleacher Report article. But it was recently said that Julius Randle is going to do whatever it takes to be a successful team, which means in whatever role Coach Tibbs needs him to play, he's going to play it willingly. And when I heard that quote, I was super, super happy. I was super, super excited because that's what I want to hear from Julius Randle. I don't want to hear any reports. I don't want to hear any rumors about Julius Randle not being happy with his role, not being happy with the amount of touches that he's receiving on the offense. Like, all I want to hear that these guys are getting along great. Nobody cares about the amount of touches. Nobody cares about the amount of shots. I want to hear the conversations of players sacrificing for the betterment of the team. And I think Julius Randle right now, at this point of his career, before he went down with that shoulder injury, the combination of Jalen Brunson, Randle, and OG Anunoby, I think it was like 14-3, 15-2, somewhere around there. Their record was astounding. The chemistry between OG, Julius, and Jalen Brunson it looked like it was clicking. And if not the biggest reason why it looked like it was clicking, is because Julius Randle, it looked like he was finally accepting his role on the team with the ascension of Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson has become the Knicks' best player. And as much respect as I have for Julius Randle for coming here when he did and really putting the team on his back and putting the New York Knicks back on the map, he hasn't really had a lot of success without Jalen Brunson. Julius Randle without Jalen Brunson, yeah, he made it to the playoffs going against the Atlanta Hawks in the first round where the Knicks were favored. They were the 4th seed. Atlanta was the 5th seed. And we ended up getting smacked and losing in 5 games where the Knicks were actually favored in that series. Now, again, we had players like, I believe, Derrick Rose was on that team. Nerlens Noel was on that team. I think we might have had Courtney Lee, Elfrid Payton. Some of the players I might have gotten mixed up. But the talent surrounding Julius Randle wasn't great. I understand that. But then we get into the conversation of how Julius Randle actually played in that playoff series. The Atlanta Hawks, the defensive scheme was pretty easy. Just shut down Julius Randle, and they're pretty much going to win the series, and that's exactly what they did, and that's exactly what happened. They ended up winning the series, and they ended up embarrassing the Knicks in 5 games. Then the season after that, we didn't even make it to the playoffs, and that was a whole weird season where Julius Randle was throwing the thumbs down at the crowd. That was a weird season. The fans, they didn't like that. Julius Randle and the fans had a weird relationship, but over the last few seasons, over the last couple seasons, Julius Randle has been able to regain the trust of the fans, and this is a big season coming up. And something else from that article that really took me aback is just the amount of confidence that Coach Tibbs has in Julius Randle. It seems like Julius Randle is one of Coach Tibbs' favorite players. And if you take a look here, I think Julius has always adapted to whatever challenge he's faced each year. People forget the level that he's played at. 4 years ago, he had a monster season, and we didn't even have the shooting we have now. So the floor is going to be more open. We got a glimpse of that in January, which was in his last month of basketball. People forget the guy was 25, 10, and 5. He's had a lot of success, and he's been a big part of winning the last 4 years in New York. The more good players you have, the more sacrifices you have to make, not only by Julius, by everybody. Now, I do agree with Coach Tibbs' quote there that the better the team that you have around your superstar or around your superstar players, there is going to be a sense of sacrifice. But again, I think the biggest sacrifice has to be coming from Julius Randle. Before the ascension of Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle was looked at as the best player on the team. And now with Jalen Brunson's ascension, you could look at Julius Randle has to take a little bit of a back seat with a lot of things, with the way he plays, with the amount of touches he's getting, with the amount of shots that he's getting. Julius Randle, in my opinion, is the second best player on the team. But when you have that second best player thinking that he is the best player, we have countless examples of NBA history where that could really mess the chemistry of the team. I mean, I'm not comparing these two to Kobe and Shaq at all. I'm just talking about the situation where Kobe always thought that he was the better player than Shaq. But during those Lakers three-peats, Shaq was the best player. Shaq was the most dominant player, which then led them to a three-peat. And then when they made it to the finals, I believe it was in 2004 against the Detroit Pistons, Shaq was on the back end of his career and Kobe was just getting into his prime, and you really saw Kobe really trying to take the throne from Shaq. And what ended up happening, there was a lot of chemistry issues. That season was Karl Malone, Gary Payton. There was a lot of things written in the articles, in the newspapers, and they ended up getting embarrassed by the Detroit Pistons where nobody expected them to win. They ended up losing in 5 games. And that's one example of how chemistry and that first best player, second best player, how it could really mess up the chemistry of a team. And I just really don't want that to happen with the Knicks this upcoming season. But going back specifically to Coach Tibbs' quote, talking about Julius Randle playing the 5, I'm definitely interested to see what that lineup is. And more than likely it's going to be Jalen at the 1, Mikal or OG at the 2, because you could intertwine those two. So let's say Mikal's at the 2, OG's at the 3. The 4 might be Josh Hart. Julius Randle might be the 5. Josh Hart obviously is undersized, but throughout his career he has played power forward, so he's used to playing bigger players than him. But a lineup of that 5, it could be really dangerous. It could be really dangerous. Again, concentrating on that 5 spot, Julius Randle is going to have the advantages on most nights, going up against bigger bigs, slower bigs who are not going to be able to stay in front of Julius Randle. And again, Julius Randle can stretch the defense out by stepping behind that 3-point line. So the big man is going to be guarding Julius at the 3-point line, and that gives everybody else the room and space to operate. Attack the rim without any worries of a big man trying to alter your shot or block the shot. So Julius Randle at the 5, it definitely opens up the offense, but I don't want this to be a long-term solution, which hopefully Coach Tibbs sticks to his word and he just plays Julius at the 5 sparingly. And that 5-man spot, like I keep saying, time in and time out, is going to be a very important piece for this upcoming season. Right now, Mitchell Robinson is our starting big with Precious Achiuwa coming off the bench. And again, Coach Tibbs saying that Julius Randle is going to be playing the 5 sparingly. Man, Mitchell Robinson, listen, man, like you could pencil Mitchell Robinson in for missing at least, 15 to 20 games a season? Mitchell Robinson, at this point of his career, I'm sorry to say, man, out of the last 6 seasons, you've had multiple seasons where you were injured and you missed a huge chunk of the season. Precious Achiuwa, undersized big. In my opinion, I'm not really trustworthy in Precious Achiuwa. And then if Julius Randle is going to be playing the 5 for an elongated period of time, he's going to be the wear and tear on his body. You're risking him to get injured again. So that 5-man spot is essential. I'm going to be very, very interested to see around the trade deadline what's going to happen with that 5-man spot. Are we going to include Mitchell Robinson in any of the trades? Are we going to look for a primary big? Are we going to look for a specific backup big? Are we going to roll with Mitchell Robinson for the season? Now, something that I found on the internet from Bleacher Report that's interesting, I don't necessarily agree with, but I kind of just want to talk it out. So Bleacher Report put out this article talking about Julius Randle coming off the bench. Bleacher Report states that the best move for Julius Randle would be to come off the bench for the Knicks this season. Obviously, he's a starting level talent, but New York stumbled into something magical with Jalen Brunson as a heliocentric playmaker surrounded by shooting and defensive versatility. Now, in certain situations, I do agree that players that are looked at as star players or superstar players, depending on where they are in their career, there are certain situations where I would agree that player needs to come off the bench. The more recent example I can think of is Russell Westbrook when he was with the Lakers. Russell Westbrook, the thing with Russell Westbrook, yes, he was a superstar player in his prime. He was able to carry a team into the playoffs, missed a triple-double, the first one since Oscar Robertson, all of that stuff. Russell Westbrook has gotten, for some reason, the way that the media has covered him has been astonishing to me because I feel like he gets more hate than love. But during his stint with the Lakers, the reason why that Lakers offense was so abysmal was because Russell Westbrook was not able to shoot, and he was not in his athletic prime anymore. Russell Westbrook, what he failed to realize was that he needed to develop his game as his career went on, specifically that shot-making ability. Russell Westbrook, at a certain point in his career, he was able to shoot. He had a shot, but then I don't know what happened from his prime to when he was with the Lakers. That shot just completely just escaped him. And then on top of that, then you had the crowd getting on his back, and then the shooting was just abysmal. But that is a situation where I can see your star player, one of your star players, going to the bench. Russell Westbrook being the starting five, it just really messed things up. And the best way to play with LeBron is you need to have LeBron around shooters. LeBron's going to be able to penetrate the paint, and then he's able to draw in the defense, kick out to shooters. Look at all the teams he's been successful with. All the Cleveland Cavaliers teams, the Miami Heat team with Ray Allen, Chris Bosh. All those players, they were able to put the ball in the hoop via shooting. And going back to Julius Randle, I don't think Julius Randle coming off the bench would help the situation out. Because one, Julius Randle is in his prime. Two, unlike Russell Westbrook, Julius Randle can shoot. And three, Julius Randle in his prime, somebody that can actually shoot, and somebody that is still in his athletic prime, being put on the bench. Basketball players, especially NBA players, I think coaches, their biggest thing that they have to do besides X's and O's, even though X's and O's I don't really think is high on the list, I think a coach's job in the NBA is really to manage egos. And if you have Julius Randle, who's been an all-star prior to this last season that just happened, prior to this last season, Julius Randle made an all-star team 2 out of the last 3 seasons. Julius Randle made an all-NBA team 2 out of the last 3 seasons. So you're asking Julius Randle to put his ego to the side and go to the bench when his skills are a lot more than Russell Westbrook. He has a shot, can put the ball on the floor, has a back-to-the-basket type of game. He's able to create plays for himself. He can create plays for others. It's not his strong suit, but he can do it. So Julius Randle coming off the bench, I don't think is a good answer to all the questions surrounding the Knicks and how they're going to be able to gel and Coach Tibbs' answers for the offense. Now, if Julius Randle came out himself and said, hey, listen, actually, you know what? Let me take that back. If after the first 20, 25 games, the Knicks seem to be in a little bit of a rut, and you can tell that the offense is just not flowing, and it seems very stagnant, and it just seems like something is up. If Julius Randle himself comes out and says something along the lines of hey, let's try me coming off the bench. First and foremost, the amount of respect that I would gain for Julius Randle would be through the roof. Two, it would let me know what type of player Julius Randle is. A winning player who he is going to be living behind that quote that I talked about earlier in this video, that he's going to be willing to try whatever role Coach Tibbs sees him playing. Whatever role and whatever capacity. If it's 6-man coming off the bench, if it's a starting player, or whatever role Coach Tibbs has in mind and Julius Randle is willing to do it, again, that could put us in a whole nother stratosphere in the Eastern Conference and in the NBA, honestly. Now, speaking of that 5-man position, moving on to the next segment, I want to talk about Isaiah Hartenstein's replacement. And speaking of Isaiah Hartenstein going to the Oklahoma City Thunder, first and foremost, salute to iHeart. Appreciate everything you've done for the Knicks. And Oklahoma City Thunder, man, they're going to be scary. They're going to be scary, but that's a video for another day. I was looking around the internet, and I was seeing just what's out there. Who are the Knicks targeting? Now, the names that keep coming up, I put out videos on Walker Kessler. I believe Chris has put out videos on Nick Richards. But there's been one guy that I actually saw earlier today that I haven't really seen anybody talking about and linking them to the New York Knicks. And I'm talking about DeAndre Ayton. Now, Stefan Bondy, who put out an article for the New York Post last week talking about different targets that the Knicks could be looking at. Nick Richards, Walker Kessler, DeAndre Ayton, Clint Capella. Again, some of the names have been linked to the Knicks for most of the summer. But this is the first time that I saw DeAndre Ayton's name being thrown out. And listen, man, DeAndre Ayton, I'm going to straight up say it. No. DeAndre Ayton, if we're looking at DeAndre Ayton from a bird's eye view, yes, he's an incredible talent. He's super young. He has all the basketball skills you need to rely on a starting big. But from what I've seen from DeAndre Ayton's career, ever since the last season with Phoenix and ever since he's been in Portland, has just been dude, I don't think this guy wants it. The number one pick, I forgot what year he was in the draft and he was a number one pick. But for DeAndre Ayton's talent, all I've heard is that he relies on his talent and he's not somebody that's going to go out and after it. He's not somebody that's looking to develop all of his skills and maximize his potential. He's not looking to be the best player in the league. And with that talent, man, I just don't like players like that. I don't like players that are not looking to maximize their potential. And DeAndre Ayton could be a monster in this league. But for some reason, there's something missing. And if we take a look at DeAndre Ayton's numbers from last season, he played in 55 games, averaging 16.7 points, 11.1 rebounds, and 1.6 assists. And if we take a look at the field goals made, he made 7.8 out of 13.6 field goals attempted, which equates to 57%. Three-pointers, he's not really a three-point big man. That's something that he should be looking to add to his game, especially in today's NBA landscape. But listen, man, DeAndre Ayton, No, I'm not risking anything. I am not risking anything for somebody that DeAndre Ayton is not proven, and he still has a long way to be proven in his career. He might be entering his 5th or 6th season, but with the amount of talent that DeAndre Ayton has, he should be in the conversation for just not even the MVP, because no, that's putting way too much pressure on him. But as far as the conversations with the NBA talking heads, as far as the best big man in the league, his name is never brought up. It's Joel Embiid, it's Jokic, it's Bam Adebayo if you're feeling froggy one day. DeAndre Ayton's name is never brought up, and his name should be brought up consistently. He has a back-to-the-basket type of game, an old-school big man type of game, but he can hit the mid-range. He has a little bit of handles. His athleticism is through the roof. There's no reason why DeAndre Ayton should not be part of the best big man conversation, and he's just not. And year in, year out, when you kind of disappoint the NBA fans because we see how talented you are, and you're not really playing to your level, to your potential, why would we want you? Why would we be looking to give up pieces for you? And you can bring up the conversation, you can bring up the argument of a different place, a different face, a different situation, and might bring out the best of him. And Portland, obviously, is not the Phoenix Suns, so it's a new place, it's a new situation. But the Portland Trailblazers, they're like in super rebuilding mode. So I don't really know how much I can gauge that. If you put DeAndre Ayton in a winning situation now, maybe it might be different. If you put him in the Milwaukee Bucks, if you put him with the Knicks, if you put him with, I don't know, a contending team, then DeAndre Ayton might actually change his attitude. But I'm not willing to take that risk. Before this article being put out by Stefan Bondy, I haven't heard the Knicks being linked to DeAndre Ayton, but I'm just putting my 2 cents out there. No to DeAndre Ayton. But that's it for today's video, guys. I want to say thanks so much for checking it out. Let me know what you guys think about this whole Julius Randle and the 5-spot situation. Let me know what you guys think about DeAndre Ayton and the Knicks. Can you see it? Do you like the fit, or do you want to stay away from DeAndre Ayton like I do? Preseason is just around the corner, and you know what that means. If preseason is around the corner, that means the official season is about to begin. But until next time, you know the drill, you know the vibes. Jalen Brunson for all the MVPs. The deuce is loose. Deuce McBride for co-MVP. Taj Gibson for president. Mikal Bridges for defensive player of the year. And until next time, I'll check you guys out in the next video.